Besides, every good fairy tale starts with a dreamlike scene, and ours was no different. The setting sun painted the sky with hues of orange and purple as the guests took their seats under the beautifully adorned marquee. The air was filled with a melodic blend of laughter, anticipation, and the soft notes from a violin playing in the background. I remember standing behind those grand oak doors, my heart racing. The delicate lace of my wedding gown felt like a second skin against me, and the weight of the veil made everything seem surreal. My bridesmaid Sarah whispered reassuringly, "Breathe, Carla." Taking a deep breath, I replied, "It's just hard to believe it's actually happening." Sarah chuckled, "Believe it. In a few minutes, you'll be walking down that aisle toward the love of your life." The doors started to open, revealing the pathway lined with roses and soft lights. Jake stood at the altar, his eyes searching for me. The first time our gazes met, a rush of emotions overtook me. He looked dashing in his tailored tuxedo, his usually unruly hair neatly combed back. As I started walking, he whispered loud enough for me to hear, "You look breathtaking." A blush spread across my cheeks. The ceremony was a beautiful blur. Our vows were heartfelt and sincere. "Jake," I began, my voice shaking with emotion, "I promise to stand by you through our highs and our lows, to cherish every moment we have." He grinned, tears brimming in his eyes. "Carla, every day with you feels like a blessing. Today, I promise to cherish, honor, and love you, come what may." Our friends and family cheered as we sealed our vows with a kiss. As the evening progressed with dances, toasts, and laughter, Jake pulled me close and whispered, "This is just the beginning, love. Our fairy tale has only just begun." And in that moment, under the canopy of stars, it felt like nothing could ever break the bond we shared. Little did I know the twists and turns our story would take, but on that day, everything felt like pure, unadulterated magic. Jake and I had always dreamed of owning a little haven we could call our own, and a few months after our wedding, we stumbled upon a quaint house on Elm Street. It was a rustic brick-built structure with ivy creeping up the walls and a charming picket fence that guarded a tiny garden. As we toured the house, our imaginations ran wild. "This," Jake said, pointing to a small room with a sunlit window, "could be a library or maybe a studio for you." I laughed. "Are you suggesting I need to finally take up painting again?" Jake winked. "Or maybe it's the perfect place for you to continue writing those stories you're so passionate about." The house, with its wooden floors and cozy fireplaces, spoke of warmth. I could already imagine winter nights spent in front of the fireplace, sipping on hot cocoa, wrapped up in Jake's arms. We decided to make an offer and, to our surprise, it was accepted. Moving day was chaotic, with boxes piling up everywhere and a mischievous cat. Whiskers, who we'd adopted, darting in and out, causing all kinds of playful havoc. Jake, trying to assemble a particularly stubborn bookshelf, mused aloud. "Do you think we should have hired professionals for this?" Chuckling, I replied, "Where's the fun in that? Besides, think of all the memories we're creating." Later that evening, as we lay amidst unpacked boxes, a pizza box lying discarded beside us, Jake looked over and said, "You know, I was only half joking about needing a bigger house earlier." "And why's that?" I teased. "Well," he began, a mischievous glint in his eyes, "if we keep collecting memories and knacks at this rate, we might run out of space." I snuggled closer, sighing contentedly. As long as we're together, this place will always be big enough. Time flew by, and with each passing day, the house echoed with laughter, whispered secrets, and the comforting routine of two people deeply in love. It was in this house that we truly began understanding what it meant to build a life together. From the smallest of disagreements over curtain colors to spending weekends gardening, every moment was a testament to the love that had bound us on our wedding day. The small house on Elm Street wasn't just any house. It had character, charm, and a sort of old-world romanticism that most modern homes lacked. Built in the 1940s, it was evident that the house had witnessed numerous stories of love, loss, joy, and growth. Upon entering, a spacious living room with a large bay window greeted visitors. The wooden floorboards, albeit slightly worn out, gleamed under the soft sunlight filtering through sheer curtains. To the right was a kitchen, slightly outdated, but filled with potential. Jake instantly grew fond of the rustic tiles and the wooden cabinets. "This kitchen is begging for some homemade lasagna," Jake remarked, tapping the old gas stove playfully. I rolled my eyes, grinning. "You just want an excuse to get some of your mom's famous recipe. But first, I think it might need a little refurbishing." We ventured upstairs and found 2 bedrooms. The master was spacious, with a small balcony that overlooked the backyard. A patch of green filled with wildflowers and an old oak tree. "I can imagine us having our morning coffee here," I murmured, leaning over the balcony railing. Jake wrapped his arms around me, and maybe a treehouse for our future little ones in that oak tree? We both laughed, letting ourselves be swept up in dreams of the future. The second bedroom, smaller but equally charming, held the promise of transformation. Maybe a nursery, an office, or, as Jake teased earlier, my very own writing retreat. As weeks turned into months, the house became an extension of us. Every piece of furniture, every painted wall, and every little decoration was a labor of love. Jake would often joke about my obsession with throw pillows, and I would tease him about his ever-growing collection of vintage car models. One evening, as we curled up on our newly purchased couch, Jake said, "Every corner of this home echoes with our love." I nodded. "It's like we've breathed life into it. It's no longer just a structure. It's our home." In that cozy living room, amidst the dim glow of our antique lamp and the soft melodies playing in the background, we lost track of time, reminiscing about our journey and dreaming about our shared future. Elm Street wasn't just an address. It was where our hearts truly intertwined, making every brick, every beam, and every floorboard resonate with our love story. Whispered wishes and silent prayers had filled our nights as Jake and I yearned for the next chapter of our life. We both dreamed of tiny footsteps echoing in our hallway and giggles breaking the stillness of our nights. A year into settling into our Elm Street abode, life gave us its most precious gift. The 2 pink lines on the pregnancy test shone brighter than any sunrise I'd ever seen. The world seemed to hold its breath, the moment frozen in time. Jake was in the garage, working on some project, when I approached him with the test hidden behind my back. "Guess what?" I said, my voice trembling with excitement. He glanced up, wiping his hands on a rag. "What's got you grinning like that?" With a flourish, I presented the test. The range of emotions that crossed his face was endearing. Surprise, disbelief, and then pure, undiluted joy. "Are we—" He trailed off, unable to finish the sentence. I nodded, tears forming. "We're going to be parents, Jake." Pulling me into a tight embrace, he whispered against my hair, "This is the best news ever. Our family is growing." The following months were a whirlwind of preparations. Our home, once spacious, suddenly seemed to lack space as we started to nest. The smaller bedroom, once a potential office, now transformed into a pastel-colored nursery. Our evenings were filled with reading parenting books and feeling the baby's movements. Jake, with his hand on my belly, would often talk to our unborn child. "Hey there, little one. It's your dad. Can't wait to meet you," he'd say, his voice thick with emotion. We attended prenatal classes, where Jake amusingly struggled with diaper-changing drills. "This is way more complicated than fixing a carburetor," he'd laugh, holding up the diaper as if it were some enigmatic artifact. The excitement was palpable. Friends and family showered us with love, gifts, and advice. sometimes unsolicited, but always well-intentioned. One evening, as we lay in bed, Jake said, "You know, Carla, every time I think life couldn't get any better, it surprises me." I smiled, placing his hand on my belly where our baby was kicking. This, right here, is our miracle, our blessing in disguise. The love and anticipation that filled our Elm Street home were palpable. We were on the cusp of a new adventure, and it promised to be the most beautiful one yet. The birth of our daughter, Amelia, brought immeasurable joy into our lives. Every smile, every babble, and every milestone felt like a gift. However, as is the nature of life, with joy came challenges that tested the fabric of our relationship. Sleepless nights, constant feedings, and adjusting to the role of parents meant that Jake and I had less time for each other. Our once leisurely weekends turned into a cycle of diaper changes, laundry, and catching up on lost sleep. Our conversations, once filled with dreams and laughter, often centered around Amelia's needs. One evening, as I prepared dinner, the weight of exhaustion pressing down on me, Jake walked in, a serious look on his face. "Carla, we need to talk," he began. I sighed. "What's it now? Did we run out of formula?" He hesitated, choosing his words carefully. "It's not about Amelia. It's about us. I feel distant, like we're drifting apart." I turned off the stove, my heart heavy. "Jake, we have a newborn." "I know," he said, running a hand through his hair, "but it's not just about being busy. I miss us. The spontaneous dates, the late-night chats. Now everything revolves around Amelia." "We're parents now," I whispered, tears forming. "Things change. We have to adapt." Jake took my hands, his eyes searching mine. "I just don't want to lose us in the process. We need to find a balance." We both knew he was right. The love was still there, but the dynamics had shifted. We decided to set aside one evening a week just for us. Whether it was a movie night at home or a short walk around the block, while Amelia was with a sitter, we prioritized our relationship. One night, as we sat on our balcony, a gentle breeze playing with my hair, Jake said, "You know, every phase in life brings its own set of challenges. But it's how we face them that defines us." I leaned into him, comforted by his warmth. "As long as we face them together, I think we'll be okay." "Always," he whispered, sealing the promise with a kiss. Despite the challenges, the foundation of our love remained strong. But like any structure, it needed constant attention and care. We were learning that marriage, much like parenting, was a journey with its fair share of ups and downs. And while the path had shifted, our destination remained the same. A life filled with love and understanding. As the years sped by, the rhythm of our life fell into a predictable pattern. Amelia grew into a bright and sensitive 10-year-old, her laughter a permanent fixture in our home. But as we became more engrossed in our separate worlds, me with my burgeoning career and Jake with his car service shop, subtle changes crept into our relationship. Jake began coming home later and later, often looking worn out. His once jovial demeanor had a touch of irritability. At first, I attributed it to the stress of managing his growing business, but slowly signs began to emerge that something wasn't right. One evening, after putting Amelia to bed, I confronted him. "Jake, what's going on? You've been distant and moody lately." He avoided eye contact, taking a deep breath. "It's just work, Carla. Business hasn't been great. I'm trying to figure things out." But my instincts told me there was more to it. We faced tough times before, but this feels different, I pressed, my voice filled with concern. Jake's face reddened, his voice raised. "Can't you just let it be? Why do you always need explanations?" This wasn't the Jake I knew. His outbursts became frequent, and the warmth in our home started to wane. I felt a growing unease, but brushed it aside, hoping it was a passing phase. The day that changed everything began like any other. Amelia was home from school, and I had taken a day off to spend time with her. Jake had left for work in the usual rush. As Amelia and I baked cookies in the kitchen, she suddenly turned to me, her face pale. "Mom, we need to get out. Now." Confused, I asked, "What are you talking about, sweetie?" She clutched my hand, panic evident in her eyes. "Just trust me. We need to leave." Before I could process her words, I smelled it. The acrid scent of smoke. Racing to the living room, I saw Jake, matches in hand, attempting to set the curtains alight. "Jake, what are you doing?" I screamed in horror. He turned, a strange emptiness in his eyes. "I can't live like this anymore, Carla. I'm suffocated." Chaos ensued. I quickly ushered Amelia out, and as we stood outside, the reality of what had almost happened started to sink in. The wail of sirens drew nearer as neighbors gathered. Jake was led away by the police, the house smoldering but saved by the timely intervention of firefighters. As I held Amelia close, trying to shield her from the harsh reality, she whispered, "I overheard Daddy last night. He was talking to someone, saying he felt trapped. I never thought he'd do this." Tears streamed down my face. The unthinkable had occurred, shattering the illusion of our perfect life. The reasons and the whys would come later. For now, all I knew was that our world had irrevocably changed. The aftermath of that fateful day was a blur of legal proceedings, therapy sessions, and a flood of emotions. The house on Elm Street, once a symbol of our love, now held memories too painful to bear. Jake's descent into darkness and his subsequent arrest was a jolt from which neither Amelia nor I recovered easily. Amid the chaos, I filed for divorce. Seeing Jake behind bars during the proceedings was heart-wrenching. The man I had once loved so deeply was now a stranger, his actions forever altering the trajectory of our lives. One evening, as Amelia and I sat in our temporary apartment, she broke the heavy silence. "Mom, do you hate Daddy?" I took a deep breath, choosing my words carefully. "No, sweetie, I don't hate him. I'm hurt and confused. But hate is a strong word. What he did was wrong, but we need to find a way to heal and move forward." Amelia looked thoughtful. "I miss the old Daddy, the one who used to read me bedtime stories and laugh with us." Tears stung my eyes. "Me too, darling. But sometimes people change, and not always for the better. What's important is how we deal with it." Amelia curled up beside me. "I'm glad I have you, Mom." Months turned into a year, and slowly the wounds began to heal. We moved to a new town seeking a fresh start. The house, smaller but cozy, became our sanctuary. New friends, new routines, and the support of close family members helped us rebuild our lives. One day, as I was setting up my home office, Amelia bounded in, a smile lighting up her face. "Mom, guess what? Mrs. Roberts from next door has invited us for dinner tonight." I smiled. "That sounds wonderful. It's nice to feel welcomed." Amelia nodded. "It is. You know, I was scared when we moved, but now I think we're going to be okay." I pulled her into a tight embrace. "Yes, we will.